Melissa Dunn here with the Melissadunn Realty team. We are still in our lender series, and today I'm joined again by Brandon Hearn, one of our preferred lenders, and we're going to talk all things appraisal today. So Brandon, how are you? Are you ready for our conversation?
I love the appraisal talk. That's my favorite.
Awesome. Well, okay, so first question, we'll jump right in. What is the appraisal and why is it important?
So I'm gonna back up one level.
Okay.
When you're buying an investment in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, in my opinion, the due diligence is incredibly worth every penny. The inspection is like an auto mechanic. The inspector is going to tell you everything that's wrong with the house. That gives you the knowledge so you know functionally, is the house functional? That's what the inspector does. The appraiser is something that the lender orders. So the lenders typically require an appraisal. Sometimes they don't, and I'll talk about that in a second, but usually they do. And the appraiser is like Kelly Blue Book. They're going to make sure the value is what it's worth, right? So both of these parties are they spearhead your due diligence, right? One makes sure you buy a house that's not a lemon, and the other makes sure you're not paying too much for the house, right? Now, depending upon these reports, you may have additional professionals that come in, right? You may have a pest inspector. You may have an engineer. You may have a foundation. You may have a roofer. But these two reports, the inspection and the appraiser, are super important. That appraiser looks at the house differently than the inspector. So the appraiser, as I mentioned, values the house. So what's more important to them is the value, the house that you're buying, as it compares to other houses that are like it, that are similar. We call them comparables or comps. You may hear, hey, what are the comps? What are the comparables? That's what we call it. So we say this house with this square foot and these upgrades compared to these other houses that have recently sold. And as a result, this is the value. Okay. And it's an opinion of value, right? It's not the real value. The real value is what you're willing to pay for it. Right? The opinion of value is just an opinion. So people have bad experiences with appraisers when they have bad appraisers. And generally right now, appraisers, like most people in the industry, are really overworked and they're underpaid. So a general rule of thumb, when someone tells me, man, I had a terrible appraisal, the house didn't appraise at value, I say, did you pay less than $500 for it? Yeah. Well, there you go. They're just pencil whipping it. So the appraiser is part of your due diligence. Their role is to value the house, and the quality of the appraisal is going to reflect what you pay for it, similar to the inspection. Very important part of the process. Did you want to say something?
No, I just agreed with you.
Okay. Yeah. So the other reason why that appraiser is so important is, depending upon what type of loan you're doing, the appraiser actually looks at the house a little different, right? So if you're doing a conventional loan, the appraiser cares less about some of the smaller details, maybe let's say there was some rotting wood on the trim. Appraiser doesn't care. Let's say there was a broken window. Appraiser really doesn't care. Let's say there looked like maybe there were some rodents, digging around the house. Not a big deal. Now you get into government loans. Now the appraiser, because the government loans have some overlays. The government says part of our appraisals that we require is that the home is livable and without pests. So maybe now the appraiser says, hey, that rotted wood needs to be fixed. Or the appraiser says, hey, it looks like there's pests. You got to have an inspection. Okay. When that comes up like that, Melissa helps kind of negotiate with the seller to get these things fixed. But I'll take a step back further. This goes even deeper to when you're making an offer on a house. If you're making an offer on our house, you may hear Melissa say, listen, you're doing a VA loan and that roof needs to be replaced. And if the seller's not willing to do it, The government appraiser is not going to certify that house.
Mm-hmm.
So just know when you're looking at houses, depending on what type of loan that you're doing, that may or may not guide kind of what you're looking at, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Some homes we can walk in and we can just tell FHA won't fly here unless this, and this are taken care of. And that's where I think having the knowledgeable realtor who can catch those things or ask the listing agent those things beforehand, before you fall in love and you pay for your inspection and all these things. I think that it's important to have that kind of conversation, or at least know that. So awesome. So, we just kind of covered what does property condition have to do with loan approval. Is there anything else you want to say about that, or do you think you covered it?
I think I covered it. One of the things I think about when I think about appraisal, some of the fear around it, is the listing agent. It's the listing agent's job to prove the value of the house. So the other time where appraisals, there's some issues, is the listing agent may not be the most knowledgeable, or maybe a new agent, maybe really trying to stretch value, right? But that appraiser is a third party. They work for you as the client. I would highly recommend you always employ an appraiser, and it's your appraiser. So the lender orders it, right? So I order it. Appraiser doesn't work for me. They charge your credit card. They work for you. The only time where there's a conflict of interest is when you do a new build. That appraiser actually works for the builder's lender, typically. So then there's some sort of conflict there, right? Part of your due diligence is broken. But other than that, even if you're given the option to waive an appraisal, I highly recommend you do that. It's a very important part of the due diligence.
Yeah.
The only time I say waive it is if you're refinancing your house, not a big deal.
Yeah. And I've noticed, especially pre-COVID, when we were just like really busy, there were a lot more appraisal waivers and or desktop appraisals. And for a client, I think that that's attractive because they feel like they can save $500. But at the end of the day, like that is such, between that and the home inspection, those are two of the most important kind of like due diligence pieces, like you said, that should not be overlooked. So I think it's important that even when that is suggested, I mean, I have a document that I make all my buyers sign that say, if you are offered a desktop appraisal or an appraisal waiver, it is Melissadunn Real Estate's opinion that you get that appraisal. So we make you sign something saying that. So what happens if the appraisal comes in, I get this all the time. What if it comes in over value? Is the seller going to know that, the appraisal came in over value and now I have like some equity in the home, or am I going to have to pay more if it comes in over value? So what's the answer to that question?
Okay. So the appraisal is yours as the client. It doesn't belong to anyone else. So the only people that see it are me and you. I highly recommend that you share it with Melissa, because when Melissa goes to sell your house 5 years later, when you have some more kids and you want to grow your house more, you want to move someplace else, that information is going to be valuable for her to help price the house accordingly and all that kind of stuff. So share it with your realtor. The seller never sees it. The tax office never sees it. No one knows at all what it's worth unless you tell them. So when we send it to our clients, it's password protected with their social and their last name. We don't share it with anyone else. It's between you, the client, and I recommend you share it with your realtor because they should know that, but no one else knows. Yeah. So if it comes in way over value, no one knows. You just got some equity. Woohoo! It doesn't change your loan because loans are made on the lower of the two numbers, appraisal or sales price. So if the sales price is 200K, the appraisal is 215, your loan's still made on the 200K one, right?
Right.
Now, if it comes in undervalue, right? Oh, now we got a different scenario. So if you have a good appraiser, right, and a good company, right? Now, there's some bad appraisers out there, right? And we've talked about that. But you got a good appraiser, you pay good money for it, it's good quality. Your realtor, Melissa, says, you know what, this is a pretty good appraisal. I can't find any other comps that wouldn't warrant the sales price. And it just came under because guess what? We had to offer more to win it. So it comes in under. There's two choice. Well, you got three choices. One is you pay it.
The difference.
Write a check for more, and you say, "This is my dream house. I'm buying it." Two is you go into negotiations with the seller. Say, "Hey, it came in 5,000 under," and they typically say, "Share it with me." You know, it's just a negotiation process. Sometimes I see it split 50-50. So you pay 2,500 more, and they get 2,500 less, and you know you kind of go through that process. And then the last scenario is the seller says, "Nope, not making a change," and you say, "I don't want to pay anymore." Then you would be denied the loan.
Yeah.
Right. The home doesn't appraise. It doesn't meet the condition. You're out of the contract. So that rarely does not happen because, you know, even though people are humans and they're emotional and crazy at times, if it's your house and your dream house, spending an extra $2,000 over the life of 5 years is worth it, right? It's totally worth it.
I usually either see if it's a reasonable difference that the client feels like they'll make up in equity over the next few years, they'll pay the difference. Most of the time though, I see buyers and sellers who come to the table, negotiate, and we either the price is reduced or we meet in the middle, something like that. You know, but being in such a crazy market, some sellers are willing to go back on the market and they dig in their heels, but I rarely see that happen. Typically, buyers close the gap or we're meeting somewhere in the middle, or the seller will, you know, hey, that's what it appraised for, and they'll accept it. So, all right. I think that's all the questions that I had on appraisals. Do you have anything else you want to add about an appraisal?
It doesn't need to be scary. All right. Appraisers are super good people too. You know, the quality of the appraisal, you know, when you're picking a lender, you know, similar to picking a realtor, it's not always just about, you know, Brandon. It's not always just about Melissa. A lot of times with some of this back end stuff, it's who you're working with. Can the inspectors, can the appraisers, can the attorneys, can the title company, can the roof, can the whole team, can they deliver? Are they good quality? Because I don't know about you, but I know a lot of really great people that work in bad processes and bad companies. I mean, I know some of my best friends, great humans, work at a company and they're like always telling me all these things that stink, right? Yeah. So good person, bad company. So when you're doing the due diligence on the person that you want to work with, that team comes into play. That's very important. And sometimes it's hard to, like, you're never going to meet my processor, Lori, right? She's a valuable part of my team. You're never going to meet her. You know, you're not going to meet the appraisers, but that reputation is huge because those appraisers, if you don't have a good appraiser, you're not making it to the finish line.
Right. Yeah.
They're invaluable.
Yeah. And it should also be said that before any of my buyers submit an offer on the property, now, while I'm not an appraiser, right, I do give what's called a CMA or a BPO, which is a broker price opinion or a comparative market analysis, and I am a PSA, so I hold my pricing strategy advisor, I think is the designation's name, where I'm running pretty detailed comps on every property before we go under contract. However, that does not replace the importance of an appraiser. So we try to get you as close to the finish line as possible, but it's important to also take that appraiser's report and really, you know, it holds value, I think. So, all right, well, that's it. Thank you, Brandon, for spending the day with us, and we will see you on video 6, where we talk about the behind the scenes of the loan process. So,
yeah.